I'll call the meeting to order and call a roll call.
Blunier. Leach.
Here.
Lehman. Lehman on Zoom.
Here.
Here, there we go. Menold.
Here.
Newman.
Here.
Parrott.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. Pat has, our lawyer has a comment to make. Pat?
Thank you, Jeff. Before we get started tonight, I have an announcement I want to make in regards to ground rules for the conduct of tonight's meeting by video conference in part. If anyone is having trouble hearing the meeting, please send a message to our Zoom administrator. I know the board and the mayor and the village clerk will all do their best to project their voices as loud as possible. If technological issues are preventing someone from participating, we'll work to resolve those issues before we proceed. Participants are asked to mute their microphone when they are not speaking to help reduce background noise. Individuals should speak one at a time, not over each other, to improve audibility. As required by the Open Meetings Act, we will have a public comment period during which any members of the public who are participating in the meeting will have the opportunity to be heard. If you would like to address the board during the public comment period, please raise your hand in the Zoom application. If you are participating by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand. When we reach the public comment period or the public hearing section in tonight's meeting, anybody with their hand raised will be afforded the opportunity to comment during that period. The comment period is for comment only. Absent extraordinary circumstances, a response to any specific comment should not be expected and generally will not be forthcoming during the course of tonight's meeting. At the conclusion of the public comment period, our meeting administrator will mute all participants other than village officials, since participation during meetings is specifically limited to only the public comment period. Thank you.
Thank you. If you'd all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We do have a public hearing tonight on two items, on the proposal to exchange 208 East Tyler Street for 530 North 2nd Avenue in Morton, Illinois, and also the exchange of 17 acres plus minus of unimproved land on Harding Road for 445 East Birchwood Street in Morton. Anybody in the public like to make a comment?
I would like to speak.
You could place your name and address.
My name is John Crawford, 25691 Harding Road, Morton.
You can go ahead, John. This is your time in which this is a public. I know there's a little bit of difficulty hearing, and we're working through that technological issue. This is the public comment period on either of the two exchanges for which notice was published, and the board is receiving testimony on those exchanges. So you certainly have the opportunity to be heard on those. We will also have a public comment period after the public hearing period is over, where you can also speak. But thank you for introducing yourself, and you're free to proceed forward with your comment for the two public hearings on either of the public hearings that are up for hearing tonight.
Okay, I had extreme difficulty hearing the mayor. I hear you well, but I could barely understand him. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
You can?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so it's my turn. Well, I'm speaking out against the zoning change. I've been here for over 25 years, and school board bought the property subsequent to my purchase here, and the reason given was for bus parking at the time. And bus parking is pretty innocuous. It's 5 days a week, no weekends to speak of, no summers to speak of. It's a quiet situation. All right, that's not what has turned out to be. Now we're talking about 6 to 7 days a week, long hours, and all year round. So it's a totally different situation than what was promoted when they bought the property. So I have several issues here, starting with there's 17.3 acres roughly, and several acres, as I understand it, are unbuildable. The rental property has a 2, maybe 3 acre footprint, which leaves 10 to 12 acres uncommitted. So question number 1 for the board is, why are you proposing an I-2 zoning when a B3 with a special use would fit the property? Do I get an answer?
Okay, two different points of public comment. John, both are testimony only or public comment only, as opposed to question and answer.
Okay, I got it. Forget that. So that's something that, quite frankly, it has me terrified. I'm not sleeping at night, because typically in my research, municipalities do not include zoning that reaches beyond the needs of the business that is developing the property. And I sit up nights wondering why the village would allow a zoning that is, it's at the top of the list. There is no zoning that I'm aware of that is higher than an I-2. And on the same time, zoning down from an I-2 to a B3, as the Opperleys did on the corner of Harding Road in Maine a month ago or so, that's easy to go down. To go from a B3 to an I-2 zoning is supposed to be a hard push, because you're asking for a lot. And I can't, for the life of me, understand why the village is taking the position that they are. That ends that part of it. So here we are. At a minimum, we will have residential next to business. And I'm curious to know, and I'm requesting landscape screening along the property line between the B and the residential. And I know the argument has been made that the property around here primarily is zoned I-2. And I get that. I've lived in Morton a long time. And the reason, frankly, that the property around here has been zoned I-2 for a long time is because many years ago, Caterpillar started to build a parts distribution center, I believe, and they got the superstructure out of the ground. It sat unfinished for several years, and then they tore it down. In the meantime, Tazewell County and the village of Morton, for whatever reason, zoned everything within a half a mile of that building footprint I-2. And when I bought this place, my property, a farmhouse, was zoned I-2. I talked to the county on numerous occasions, and they were always going to fix it, but never got it done. So I went and paid the money and got rezoned to bring my property back to ag, which is what it was for the 150 years prior to Caterpillar and their thing that they eventually abandoned. So that's the history of the I-2 in this neighborhood. But the reality is, the property, Opperly's got their property across Harding Road zoned I-2, but the reality is the two properties that they've sold fit well within a B3 classification. And as a matter of fact, they just downzoned from an I-2 to a B3 for the child care facility that they're going to build next to Gold's Gym on the corner. So in the last 25 years, the only development in this area has either been, for all intents and purposes, regardless of zoning requirements, the only building was a residential unit and a couple of B3s. So even though it's been zoned I-2 for 35 or 40 years, however long ago that's been, the reality is that's not what's happening out here on the ground. So let's see. The next item is with a business next door. I understand there are light pollution requirements, but I can tell you for certain that G&D Trucking, when they built their facility, didn't bother to pay any attention to those requirements. And if I'm going to have a business next door with outdoor storage, that means lights at night, and the light pollution issue is huge for me. And I would like to have these things addressed. And then next issue is, because my property is part of a much larger farmstead that dates back 150 years, there is a tile that leaves my property and goes through the subject property, and somehow in my mind, I have to believe that there's about a 99 percentile chance that that tile is going to be destroyed by one method or another, not necessarily intentional, but just because of the construction processes that are going to go on that property. And I would like the village to address how they're going to alleviate the concerns on my part, because if that line is destroyed or broken, my property is going to flood, and we all know how that will turn out. It won't turn out well. And I'm not trying to threaten anybody here. I'm trying to be straightforward and honest with my positions. And actually, back on the light pollution issue, I don't know if you guys have paid the attention, but there has been a huge fight in Farmington because someone built a vet clinic next to a home, and the village has been sucked into a giant fight over an individual in a residential property next to a business property and the whole light pollution thing. Just wanted to bring that to your attention. Next point, taking this from a B3 to an I2, I don't think there's anybody that doesn't know that this is going to affect my property value in a negative way. And I'm curious to know what the village's position is on that also. And I guess to finish up here, and again, I don't want to sound angry, although perhaps I am, I don't know. My wife just tore out the coupons and paid our property taxes. And we're currently paying about $55,000 a year in property taxes, and every penny of that, save my own personal residence, which is in the county. All the rest of that $55,000 a year that I'm paying goes directly to the village of Morton. And frankly, I don't understand why these agreements, in conversations with village members, this deal has been in the works for 3 years. I've been here for 25 years, and I only found out about this when I got the letter that the village was asking for a zoning change from B3 to I2. And when we're making deals that involve taxpayer money, of which I feel I pay my fair share, I struggle to understand why these things, I guess in my case, as an adjacent property owner, seems to me that someone, somewhere in the village, perhaps, might have reached out to me to see, because frankly, I know Brad Neat. I like Brad. Brad came out to my house last Friday and we had a chat. I don't have an issue there with Brad. But I just cannot, you're giving this young man the exchange. Correct that term. The exchange with this young man is 17.3 acres roughly, some acreage unbuildable, 3-acre footprint for his building, 10 acres. But we don't have any idea what that 10 acres is going to become. And if the village grants an I2 zoning for the entire 17.3 acres, you have given up any decision-making process for that other 10 acres for time immemorial. And for the life of me, I can't fathom why the village board would agree to that position, because you're taking yourself out of the mix. I struggle to understand. So that is the sum and total of my argument. Obviously, I have questions in here that I would love to have answers to. I understand those won't be coming tonight, but so I guess I'm through with my presentation.
Is there anybody else present who wishes to be heard on either of the public hearing matters that we have set for tonight, which is a proposal to exchange 208 East Tyler Street for 530 North 2nd, or a proposal to exchange 17 acres of unimproved land along Harding Road for 445 East Birchwood? I see no other hands raised. I know we've had a couple people join the meeting since we started. So before I ask the mayor to move forward, I pause for just a moment and ask anybody else who'd like to be heard to please raise your hand through the Zoom meeting function. There's a button towards the bottom of your screen to do that. I'll pause just a minute to see if anybody else desires to be heard. Seeing none, Your Honor, I would suggest it'd be appropriate to move forward with the agenda into the public comment period.
All right, we'll close the public hearing. Now, there is no presentations or special reports tonight, so we'll go to public comment.
And the public comment period, just again to help the mayor, this is an opportunity for anybody to be heard on any matters they wish to address before the board, not just limited to those 2 topics which were a part of the public hearing. So is there anybody, if there's anybody who desires to be heard during the public hearing portion, I'd ask you to please raise your hand or unmute your microphone if you can't figure out how to raise your hand, or hit a message in the Zoom group chat and we'll unmute you. I'll wait a minute to allow everybody the opportunity, if they desire to be heard, to do that. Seeing none, I'd suggest Your Honor could move forward with one additional point. This may be only me, but I'm having difficulty hearing the board and hearing the mayor. So anything and everything that you guys could do to really project your voice would be helpful, because it is presently difficult to hear you on Zoom.
All right. We do have one invited guest here, so Leanne Brown with the Chamber and EDC Board, if you'd step up. Introduce yourself.
Good evening, Mayor and Board and public. Leanne Brown with the Morton Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development Council, and thank you for a few moments to share some updates regarding the economic development side. Department of Commerce, DCO, has released additional funding. This is called the BIG program, Business Interruption Grant Program. Just want to flag this to some industry groups that qualify. This would be for bars, restaurants, barbershops, salons, and fitness centers. So originally when this was released, it was only for communities in a disaster zone. We did not meet that qualification. They changed the qualifications and released that on June 26th. That was a busy day for many businesses trying to move into phase 4. So we have sent this out, but we just really wanted to make sure we flagged that to your attention because the deadline is quickly approaching tomorrow, July 7th at 5 p.m. The DCO State Department is hosting a webinar session tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. to go through this grant. We have sent that information out. If you did not receive it and would like that information, feel free to call our office first thing in the morning or email me, labrown@mortonillinois.org, and I will share those details with you. One other update regarding business information. We are connecting with Senator Brady this Wednesday morning, a 8 a.m. Virtual session to allow our businesses to connect with Senator Brady. I'm sure a lot of people have a lot of comments and questions to ask, and that is the point of it. So 8 o'clock a.m. it is a Zoom meeting. That information is on our chamber website, and information has been sent out. Speaking of tomorrow, July 7th, it is an exciting day. The Morton Chamber of Commerce will be hosting a public announcement to share publicly what the 2020 Roaring Pumpkins and all that jazz will look like this year for our community. So that will be happening at 10:30 a.m. It will be a Facebook Live announcement. It will also be recorded. So if you missed that live announcement, you can tune in at any time. But again, tomorrow, Tuesday, July 7th, 10:30 a.m., Facebook Live for our public announcement for the 2020 Roaring Pumpkins and all that jazz. So more to come on that, and we look forward to sharing those details with everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Leanne. We'll go to the consent agenda tonight is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting June 15th, 2020, and the special meeting June 22nd, 2020, and the approval of the bills.
I so move. Second.
Any other comments by the trustees? If not, call the roll.
Leach.
Yes.
Lehman.
Here. Yes, sorry. Yes.
Menold.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Parrott.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. So under the village president tonight, we have 3 items to talk about tonight. And these are exciting times in the village. The village board, the school board has been working together. We've been working with a company here in Morton, and we have some announcements here we're going to be voting on, 3 of them. So these are really great things for the community. The first one is the resolution approving real estate exchange agreement between Morton Unit School District 709 and the Village of Morton. And what this is we're exchanging Harrison Street and 5 houses for the 17.5 acres on Harding Road. And we're working together to improve the junior high and addressing some of the safety issues in neighborhood, parking, and we're going to have some of the school people come up and talk about what it's going to do for their school. So that would be the first one, if we could have a motion.
I will move to
Your
approve.
Honor,
Second.
Yes.
we can't hear you at all on the Zoom meeting.
Well, can you hear me now?
Slightly better, but not very well.
Could you hear Leanne before?
Leanne's was cutting in and out. You're a little better now, close to where Leanne was, but it's still very difficult to hear.
So can you hear me now? Okay.
I can hear you better now.
All right, so again, tonight is exciting times. We're going to talk about 3 items under the president. We've been working with the school board, a local business, to have these 3 announcements here we'll be voting on. And we've been working with the Morton School Board on the junior high, on some property exchanges so they can improve that neighborhood, some parking issues, safety. So that first resolution, the resolution approving real estate exchange agreement between the Morton Unit School District 709 and the Village of Morton. And what that is we bought 5 houses there at the junior high, and we're trading that for 17 acres on Harding Road. So, do we have a motion again, Ken?
I will move to approve.
Second.
Any comments? All right, let's call the roll.
Leach.
Yes.
Lehman.
Yeah.
Menold.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Parrott.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you. Now, ordinance 2107, the next item here is the ordinance authorizing the exchange of 208 East Tyler for 530 North 2nd Avenue Road, 530 North 2nd Avenue in Morton. And this is the 5th house we bought. We traded it with a neighbor so we could tear down the one house on 2nd Street so the buses could get around the curve and put some sidewalks on each side. So if we could have a motion on that, please.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any comments? If not, call the roll.
Let's go on. Menold.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Parrott.
Yes.
Leach.
Yes.
Trustee Lehman, are you on?
Yes.
Okay, is that a yes vote?
Yes.
10-4, thank you.
I think you have to vote. You need 6 votes, don't you? 3/4?
Trustee President Kaufman.
Yes, yes.
All right. The motion passes.
Thank you. The last ordinance is 2108, an ordinance authorizing the exchange of 17 acres plus or minus of unimproved land on Harding Road for 445 East Birchwood Street in Morton.
Move to approve. I'll second that.
Any comments? And this is the location of Morton Rentals on Birchwood. And so let's call the roll.
Menold.
Can we have discussion?
Yes, go ahead.
Pat, can you hear me? Okay, Pat, one of the questions I have is when you look at the agreement, it's under paragraph 1, item N. It says the village shall pay all utility hookup fees owed to Peoria Sand and Gravel in excess of $10,000 under the terms of a prior annexation agreement for Harding property, which we made at the last meeting. And at that meeting, Item E, I think under paragraph 1, it says that the village will pay Peoria Sand and Gravel $37,500. Then, when you go back to the ordinance for today, item J under paragraph 1, or under paragraph 2, it says Morton Rentals shall pay $10,000 to Peoria Sand and Gravel for utility hookup fees due under the terms of a prior annexation agreement for the Harding property. I guess I'm looking at it, when I see that item J, it sounds like they're going to pay $10,000 to Peoria Sand and Gravel, and then our last resolution, last meeting, we're going to pay $37,500. Shouldn't paragraph J say that they're going to pay the village of Morton instead of Peoria Sand and Gravel?
First, and I know Jessica's working to make sure you guys can hear me. Can you hear me, Trustee Leach?
Yes, I can.
Okay, very well. So the prior agreement between the prior amendment to the pre-annexation agreement. Hold on, we're getting an echo on my side. Can you still hear me, Trustee Leach?
Yes, I can.
Okay. The prior agreement between the village and Peoria Sand and Gravel was amended to that 37.5 figure. I am pulling up the agreement. Bear with me a moment, please.
It's resolution 0121.
Yeah, I'm looking for the paragraph. Excuse me, the paragraph referenced.
Paragraph E.
In our,
Paragraph E.
I'm sorry, I have to get the right agreement in front of me, and usually have a few screens, and I only have one tonight, so bear with me, please. I'm sorry, the paragraph you were referencing in the agreement between the proposed agreement between the village and the Neep Trust and Morton Rentals, what paragraph was that?
Okay, that's ordinance 2108, and it's paragraph 1N and 2J.
So your question is in regards to 2J, that language should be to the village of Morton, who shall then pay Peoria Sand and Gravel. Is that essentially your question?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Trustee Leach. Is that?
Yes, that.
And that would be a sufficient amendment. I know all parties have a common understanding of kind of the flow of money, and I agree that the agreement between the village and Peoria Sand and Gravel contemplated the village collecting those funds and paying those funds to Peoria Sand and Gravel. So that is the expectation of both parties to this agreement, and certainly that language change modification to paragraph J on page 4 of the proposed agreement between the village of Morton Reynolds and the Neep Trust, to say that the payment will be made to the village of Morton for those Peoria Sand and Gravel utility hookup fees. That would be an acceptable amendment, and I don't anticipate that any party of the agreement would have any concern about that change.
Is that okay with you, Brad?
So if
Brad gave me the thumbs up, said that's okay.
and I know that was an issue that counsel for Morton Reynolds and I had discussions about to make sure we were on the same page with. So if you wanted to, if that was acceptable to the movement and to the party who seconded as friendly amendments, that would be, perfectly acceptable to me, and I would have no concern about that. That suggested amendment.
So Trustee Parrott, you made the first motion. Would you be willing to amend the motion?
Yes.
Trustee Menold, you made the second motion?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll call a vote on the amended, on the motion as amended.
Before you do that, can I ask another question?
Yes, you can.
Okay, on Pat, on page 4, paragraph K, it talks about the real estate taxes, that for 10 years there won't be any protesting. The one question I have, though, is that are we saying for 10 years the valuation is going to be exactly the same for 10 years? Or do we allow there to be a change, because I think Tazewell is under PUAT, so what is it, the lesser of cost of living, or 5%? So are we saying there would be no real estate evaluation change over that 10 years? It's going to stay exactly the same for all 10 years?
No, there's two components to the amount of real estate taxes you pay. Those are the assessment and the tax rate. P-tax, or excuse me, P-TEL, is the what is commonly called tax caps.
Right.
That's a limitation on the rate, and we are not making any contractual promises regarding what the rate will be. Instead, what we're agreeing is that the Morton Rentals Group would not protest the property taxes at that site for the next 10 years, as long as the assessment doesn't exceed the amount calculated using the methodology laid out in the agreement. So the assessment is going to be made by the Morton Township assessor and approved by the county, and that assessment is what we're agreeing that they won't protest. And again, what was negotiated between the parties was that there would be a limit that they would not protest the assessment as long as it did not exceed the methodology we've laid out in the agreement, which is essentially land cost, an agreed upon value for the cost of the value of the dirt plus a construction cost component.
Okay,
So
thanks.
if every year the tax rate increases, as is somewhat customary in tax capped counties, the amount of taxes they pay will increase, and this contractual limitation has no bearing on that, the issue of the tax rate, only on the tax assessment.
Okay, thank you.
Is that all the questions? Anybody else have any questions, trustees? If not, call the roll.
Are we doing it for the amendment?
For the amended motion.
Menold,
Yes.
Newman,
Yes.
Parrott,
Yes.
Leach,
Yes.
Lehman,
Yes.
and Kaufman.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. So at this time, I'm going to ask the school board president, Dr. Shad Beatty, school superintendent, Dr. Jeff Hill, principal of the junior high, Lee Hoffman, to come up and have some words and tell us what we're seeing here on the map. Brad, can you bring up the junior high? And we can tell the public what great things we're doing. Sorry, guys.
It's technology.
Glad you like it.
Good evening. I just wanted to take a moment to just say on behalf of the school board how excited we are to see this project come to fruition. This is a project that had about 100 moving parts, and if any part failed, this entire project would have failed. It's a project that kind of highlights what can be done when governmental agencies work together for a common mutual improvement in a community, and this is exactly that. This is something that's going to benefit not only the school district, but the village as well, and obviously the community. This is something that, it was very exciting to be part of. There were tireless efforts put on, and I'd like to thank Mayor Kaufman for his vision on this. I'd like to thank the entire village board. You were so easy to work with this, and it's greatly appreciated. Craig Laudermilk and Pat McGrath. I got to apologize to Pat's wife because I called him multiple times in early morning hours, late evening hours, and was always there to answer questions that I needed to take to my board. And so we're very appreciative of that. This allows a phenomenal business that's growing and thriving to stay in our community. It allows the school district to make exceptional improvements on our junior high, allow it to be beneficial for our students for another 20 plus years. And it obviously highlights the city's ability to make vast improvements on 4th Street. So I just, again, want to say we appreciate it, and we're thankful to all the efforts that everybody put forth on this. Thank you.
I'd like to echo Dr. Beatty's comments. Truly appreciate the work of the village board, Mayor Kaufman, Craig Laudermilk, Pat McGrath. What you've done is you've taken a project that we were really excited about, and then you've just kind of put it over the moon to being an amazing enhancement to the Morton Junior High School environment, to the to the neighborhood environment, and really something that will be long-lasting for the Morton community. So we truly appreciate the work, the spirit of cooperation. We really appreciate Mr. Hoffman's work. I'm going to let him say a couple things here in just a moment, because as this is a great plan and there's a lot of great work that's going to go into this, Mr. Hoffman's going to make it all work on a daily basis while it's getting done. So thank you to Mr. Hoffman and his leadership. That's coming. Mr. Hoffman.
I just want to echo what they all said. Thank you very much for just partnering with us. This obviously is going to fix a lot of our traffic problems. It's obviously going to fix our parking issue. That's probably the biggest complaint we get at the junior high. We love to host events. We love to have people in, but as you know, there's just nowhere to park in our area outside of the streets and just people walking. So I think this will help not only us, but obviously the community, as Dr. Beatty and Dr. Hill mentioned. So we just want to thank you for this opportunity, and we look forward to kind of the project happening. We know there'll be a few challenges through the fall, but we've got a plan for that, and we'll figure out a way to make sure kids are safe through the construction process. And we'll look forward to the spring when it's kind of all getting completed. So thank you. Thank you.
And I would like to thank the school board. You know, when you look at the map, if you drive down 2nd Street, you drive past the new gymnasium, then you envision Harrison Street out, then you envision the next 4 houses, then you envision the alley out, and you just keep going. The green space has gotten huge. And to think in that old neighborhood that we could put a 156-car parking lot next to a 3-lane drop-off for the students at the new gym is phenomenal. Plus bus drop-offs, even the proper drop-off for the dumpster. I mean, everything was thought of, and everybody worked together like we've never had before. And we all stayed cool. We even had a meeting with Dr. Beatty, myself, Craig Laudermilk, Director of Public Works, and Jeff Keach, the architect. And we got through the middle of the meeting, and I looked at Dr. Hill and I said, they don't need us anymore now. The architect and the Public Works Director can design this so it works for the village. They know who is paying for what. You can go run the school, and I'm going to go back to work. And he was good with that. But I also told him in that meeting, and we're really improving the neighborhood. I think the house values are going to go up, but there's a 156-car parking lot. So the school employees have to park in the parking lot. So at that same meeting, I told Dr. Hill, that includes your card, Dr. Hill. So don't forget that. So, but thank all of you for working it out. And it's like Trustee Leach told me once, he goes, Jeff, this is really a good deal. In 40 years or so, people are going to look at this and say, this was a great idea, came together. And the thing is, they won't remember any of our names, and that's fine, because it's the right thing to do for Morton, Illinois. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Now, in doing all this process, the village acquired the 17.5 acres, and we traded that for the Birchwood property where Morton Rentals is now. And the vision there is that's a 4.72 acre site in the heart of Morton. And that's where your new gas building is going to be in about a year. As soon as Morton Rental leaves, we're going to build a brand new gas building there at the corner, excuse me, of 4th and Birchwood. And we're going to knock down the original old affiliated home center building. That shows you how old I am. And so it's going to be great for the village, because the citizens need to know that Morton, Illinois owns the largest gas municipality that's owned by a town in the state of Illinois by meters. The largest. And our safety record is fabulous, but today's standards, we need better training rooms, and we need so many things, and we have the money in the gas fund to pay the bill. So there will be no borrowed money to do what we're doing, and the gas building will build as soon as they vacate. So if I could have you gentlemen up. We have with us tonight Robert LeVar and Mr. Brad Neat.
Good evening, and I want to thank you guys all for having us tonight. On behalf of Morton and Peoria Rentals, Robert and I are very excited that this business was started in Morton, and we're really excited to keep it here in Morton. So there's been a lot of hard work that's gone into this, and I just want to thank everyone for everything they've done. And it's really exciting to, for all the youth that we hire at the rental store. It's really exciting to be partnered up with the school district, and we can kind of be a part of a bigger problem that's being solved here. So thank you guys. We're excited to be in Morton and make you guys proud. So thank you. That's all I've got.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you. Yeah, Morton Reynolds employs a lot of high school students, so it's an opportunity for good work ethic. So they will have 17 acres to expand their business. Now, just on another note for the school district, my favorite junior high teacher was Mr. Kidd. He was a history class, and I love history. So we're tearing out Harrison Street, which was President Harrison. He was always known as Tippecanoe and Tyler too, because he won the Battle of Tippecanoe, and Tyler was his vice president, and that's why Tyler's the next street. Tyler has a record, I believe 17 kids. He had the most kids. But President Harrison died shortly after his inauguration. He only lasted 30 days after his inauguration because he had to say it publicly and he got soaking wet, so he died of pneumonia. His wife didn't go with him to Washington, D.C., so when she arrived a few weeks later, he was already dead, and she was no longer First Lady of the United States. Check my records, I'm right. He was a good teacher. So that's your history lesson for tonight. I don't need to.
Yeah, keep it on.
Why is everybody else's mics working with the mayor's?
We're using it for Clinton's votes.
Okay. Does the village clerk have anything tonight?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Thank you. Village administrator.
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
The chief of police has one item, and this is the resolution 3-21, a resolution appointing our new police chief, Jason Miller, to the governing board of the Tazewell County Consolidated Communications Center, which is located in our Morton Police Station building. So if I could have a motion.
So moved. Second.
Any comment? Call the roll.
Newman.
Yes.
Parrott.
Yes.
Leach.
Yes.
Lehman. Lehman.
Here.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Thank you. Menold.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Corporation Counsel, do you have anything tonight? Thank you. Director of Fire and Emergencies, we gave the night off here tonight. He did have a big fire to handle this past week. That went by about an hour later, and that building was pretty well down. It's amazing nobody got hurt. Director of Public Works.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. I'd like to ask the board for approval tonight. I'd like to waive formal bidding and acceptance of proposal from Wayne Litweiler Excavating Incorporated for the demolishing of 209, 213, 217, 221 East Harrison Street. That'll be done in August of 2020, and 530 North 2nd Avenue, which will be done in September of 2020, in the amount of $77,800.
So moved. Second.
Any comments? Call the roll.
Parrott.
Yes.
Leach.
Yes.
Lehman.
Yes.
Menold.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Zoning and Code Enforcement Officer.
One item tonight, Your Honor. Zoning Amendment Petition 20-03, ZA.
Could we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Brad, would you want to explain that a little bit?
This is the Harding Road property that was exchanged earlier. It's shown up on the screen. parcel identification number is 060616200017. This was given a favorable recommendation by the Planning Commission. For zoning, it's going from B3 to I2.
Do the trustees have any comments? If not, call the roll.
Leach.
Yes.
Lehman. Menold.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Parrot.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Do the trustees, any of you have anything tonight? Any history lessons you want to add? Actually, President Harrison had an Indian curse on him, so every 20 years, the president in office died. 1840, 1816, 1880, 1900, 1920, 1940, 1960, 1980, Ronald Reagan was shot. He's the only president to survive it and ended the Indian curse. I forgot that.
That's good.
So, there is no need for closed sessions tonight, so if we could have a motion to adjourn, please.
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, we gotta do a
We
roll
gotta
call on
vote
that.
for that. We have
Yes.
to vote.
Leach.
Yes.
Lehman. Lehman. Can we hear him? Menold.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Parrot.
Yes.
We are adjourned.
Thank you.